a legitimate NFL receiver. I know that he hasn't done much for this team. He's had a couple of moments, but you need him. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. I'm Mike Catalana. Thanks for being with me today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This is the League Podcast brought to you by Stellar Roofing, Windows, and Siding. Expect a stellar job every time. We are coming to you from the Connors and Ferris podcast studio. This is before we head out. Our entire team's going to be out in Denver getting you ready for the game. We will have... The plan is for a live podcast Friday evening, 6:30 from Denver. Jenna, Dan, and myself. Games at 4:30. This is East Coast times. Obviously, the game out in Denver would be 2:30 in the afternoon. You're not concerned about that unless you're in the Mountain Time Zone or in a different time zone. But we will be out there. We're planning on 6:30 Friday night. Get you ready for the game. Plus, we'll have content the whole week long. Dan's going to have his best bets. We will have a video from Denver when we arrive out there Thursday, then the live pod on Friday. So be ready for all of that coming up. An update. As I'm recording this, this is on Wednesday afternoon. We were at practice on Tuesday. They practiced again today. Yesterday was a walkthrough. Wednesday, a regular practice. Media gets a chance to see Ed Oliver out there. I talked to him yesterday. I asked him about playing. He said he was optimistic. We'll see how it goes. So let's see how he is. And the part that media is able to see, I mean, he looked pretty good. But then again, they weren't really doing much. So let's see if Ed can go. DeMar Hamlin practicing. Look, I don't think Poyer's playing, so you need another safety. So let's see how that plays out. He hasn't played in a long time. So let's see. And Curtis Samuel, a full participant in practice. You know, you go back to a year ago when Curtis Samuel played in that playoff game against Denver. I think he went over 100 yards, had a touchdown. Why not, right? When you look at the wide receivers that they have. So getting Curtis Samuel out there gives you a legitimate NFL receiver. I know that he hasn't done much for this team. He's had a couple of moments, but you need him because they're going with, you know, Shakir, Cooks, and Keon. And now you got Samuel. And then we'll see what else they do, you know, without Shavers out there. And again, we talked about it yesterday. I feel terrible for him. Without Shavers out there, they missed some blocking there. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe Jackson Hawes with a more of a role, right? He can block. I mean, he can catch the ball too. It's not like Shaver was a high volume guy. I know he plays very differently than Jackson Hawes, but when you need some of that blocking on the edge that he's been able to do it in the run game. I know he's going to get a bunch of snaps anyhow. You know, I've heard about Kincaid playing wide receiver. No, you let Kincaid play tight end in the way he plays tight end and become a mismatch. The same with Knox. I think the only reason I said that was maybe a guy like Hawes gives you, obviously, he gives you blocking. He's going to be on the field anyhow. We'll see. Ty Johnson not out there when the media was out there on Wednesday. It's not looking great. You remember the big play he made last year in the game against Denver on that play where Josh just waited and waited, threw a dart, and Ty made a great play in the end zone. And that sort of triggered what ended up being a 31-7 win a year ago. So let's see how this all plays out. You know, Bills and Broncos. Obviously, this game's in Denver. Sean Payton had said last year, man, they lost that game. He said we were early. He was right. Rookie quarterback. They were really good. They weren't ready for that, and they got handled. And he's like, we'd like to get this game at home. So they went out there. However they got it done and got this game at home, it's just really something, isn't it? Like Bo Nix is a rookie, earns a playoff spot, which he did last year. Okay, gets a touchdown, then they get blown out. Then this year makes a bunch of plays late, and here he is in the divisional game at home. They're coming off a bye. He hasn't won a playoff game. Now he's only played in one, but he's already made it to this point. I think that can be good. It can also be like he doesn't have any great experience yet behind him. Played really well late in games, but this is different. And obviously, you know what the Bills have in Josh Allen. By the way, did you hear Josh? We were there Tuesday. Say something to the effect of feels good. hasn't felt better in a while. I mean, come on. He's lying. There's no way he feels great. He may feel okay that he's going to play like the way Josh plays, but I mean, he's got a knee, he's got an ankle, he got hit in the head, like whatever else. I believe there has been times over the last few years that he's felt a lot better than he does now, but adrenaline and medicine, right? Isn't that what he says? So let's see how it goes. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about before we get to all the openings and the Mike Tomlin news is the way when you think about them being at home, with Denver being at home, and Peyton said this, he's like, there's some myths about that being at home. And I kind of agree with this. When you look at the way the regular season has gone, certainly look at the early part of the playoffs, home field advantage has not been that big of a deal, right? I mean, let's say the Rams won on the road, the Niners won on the road, Bears won at home in a crazy comeback. In the AFC, the Bills won, the Texans won, and then New England won. So they were the two teams as 2 seeds won at home. Won, I mean, rather comfortably for New England because, the Chargers could do nothing. And then the Bears with the great comeback. So both of those things happened. But he talked about that. And he also talked about there's no guarantees of these fast starts because you're at home. And I think also with the bye, no guarantee of it because they haven't played. And sometimes, they got a great plan, first time with the ball, whatever it is, but might take them a little while to get going. So it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be loud. That's a great place to see a game. The crowd's really into it. It'll be obviously I don't know what the number is. If there's 10% Bills fans, that would be fantastic. I think this is a tough ticket to get, plus the cost of going all the way out to Denver. But Bills are handled being on the road. So let's see how it goes. And I was thinking about Sean McDermott's defense. And, obviously they still give up stuff, right? And we're not good against the run. But they outcoached the Jags by a mile in that game. Yes, I know Trevor Lawrence had a couple of touchdowns and got him down the field, but the Bills got their hands on the football, got a couple of turnovers in that game, and I think really confused the Jags. And I think that's what McDermott and Babbage have done with this defense. It's being held together. Like getting Ed Oliver back would be great. I don't know what they'll get out of Ed, but getting him back would be great. They need a lot more out of Bosa. Greg Rousseau got a sack. Like, he's their best defensive end. And Bosa's been, a couple of really good moments, a couple of tip passes. They need a lot more out of him on Saturday because they didn't get anything in this past game. So if you get Ed out there, I said it's in the D line, maybe that helps. But the other thing I wanted to mention is Terrell Bernard also practiced. And I know a lot of you guys are down on Bernard. I know he's been hurt. And look, part of it is he hasn't been on the field. And he hasn't looked great when he's out there. He's also been a playmaker for this team, making plays in big moments in the playoffs last year, in the Chiefs game last year. I know it's been different this year. I'll take healthy bodies helping on that defense. And I think Bernard, he's not going to play ahead of Shaq, but you need another linebacker. And you can rotate those guys too. Both can play in the middle, obviously, if need be, because Milano hasn't been, I don't think he's been 100%, but he was limited at practice. But it would be good to get Bernard back out there, is what I'm saying. And they're using Dorian Williams, I think, in a different way, more of a pass rusher. I'm not going to say Michael Hoyt's role, because Michael Hoyt was a different kind of player. I've always thought Dorian, with his, physical ability and his length, and just, I think he should be a very good pass rusher, or at least a helpful pass rusher, or somebody you can use to rush the quarterback. I feel better about him going forward than going backwards, if that makes sense. But let's see if they scheme something up also to get him free. I would love to see more pressure on Bo Nix. But listen, I think McDermott and Babbage did a good job in that game. I know it wasn't perfect, but they held him to 24 points. They got 2 turnovers on him, got a 4th down stop, got those other 2. So it might as well be a turnover. Great for the defense. And as the guys will call themselves, the nerds, looking at the tapes, looking at certain numbers, the Bills' numbers on defense have been a lot better. And looking at the tape, like they were really confusing the Jags. So let's see. Listen, Sean Payton is a experienced, very good play caller. Kind of guy who likes himself a lot. He's had success in this league. But he's a very good play caller. So he's got to be ready. He knows McDermott. They used to be on the staff together in Philly way back with Andy Reid. That's wild when you look back at the guys that were on that staff with Andy Reid, back in the day. But yeah, so let's see how it plays out. And speaking of McDermott, my God, he didn't get fired. Look at that. He didn't get fired. I had somebody in the airport after the game say to me, well, I wanted the Bills to win, but if they lost, at least McDermott would have been fired. I'm like, what planet are you living on? McDermott's not getting fired. And I still hear people say, if this team doesn't make it to the Super Bowl, McDermott's getting fired. If they don't beat the 1 seed in Denver, after they beat everybody's, lovable team, the Jags, that, they could go all the way, and maybe they could have. They lost to the Bills. Now he's playing against Peyton and beat him last year. Beat Harbaugh last year in the playoffs. Didn't beat Andy Reid. We know that. But this idea that, first of all, I'll tell you now, Sean McDermott's not going anywhere. He's not getting fired. So, stop with that. Everybody else, there's a lot of openings in this league. I even heard somebody well-respected start talking about Mike Tomlin. And I'm interested in what you guys think about Mike Tomlin, but talking about him and saying, hey, maybe he sits out a year, and then in a year from now, maybe he could replace Sean McDermott. What are we talking about here? If you're going to replace Sean McDermott, my thinking, the only way you replace Sean McDermott is if you felt you needed an offensive guy, you wanted to change the way you run that offense, and you go out and get one of these Ben Johnson types that you think is going to be the guy to turn it around. It's not going to be for Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh. Like, you're talking about getting past a certain point, and yet you're going to go to guys he's beaten in the playoffs. And Harbaugh had a quarterback. Tomlin didn't have the quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, but he didn't have a quarterback. So I'm fascinated by the whole Tomlin thing. I hear people say about TV, he's got a personality. It's that Steelers personality. What I would hate to see, I want to see Mike Tomlin be in the media for a year, would be wild to see. I don't want to see him sitting on the set for Fox or CBS in those god-awful shows that I don't know anybody that watches. I've seen him, where he's got his 30 seconds and then they all fake laugh, and then it's 30 seconds and then fake laugh. Like, I don't want to see Mike Tomlin there. I'd rather see him do a game, but a game is different. I think in some of the other settings, it's looser, like Amazon, it's a looser set when they get to talk about things more. I'd really rather hear him on a podcast, to be honest with you, if he's really going to talk. But I hear stuff sometimes and I'm like, maybe he does take the year. Maybe he takes the step back, but there's so many openings, right? So many openings around the league. Yes, I know what you're going to say. He goes to Baltimore. Harbaugh goes to Pittsburgh. I don't think that's happening, but I guess I shouldn't say stranger things that happen. That would be wild if they keep coaching and just switch teams. Never mind. I was going to make a reference to something that happened when I was a kid, but that's very different. Anyhow, it was something involving the New York Yankees and their team back in the 1970s. Older viewers would know what I am referencing about changing that way. Yeah. Mike Kekich, I think, and Fritz Peterson. Those are the names. Man, how do I remember those names? Anyhow, it's wild, all the openings. Like, everybody's getting fired. But when I look around, the only guy who had a winning record was Tomlin, because he always has a winning record, 19 years. You got Atlanta, they fell apart. Arizona, Jonathan Gannon's not a head coach. Harbaugh, obviously, has won a bunch of games, won a Super Bowl. Stefanski's won Coach of the Year twice. I think he's going to get a head coaching job. That would be my guess. Pete Carroll, Pete's had a great career. He's not a head coach anymore. I don't think anything's going to happen there. I think he'll be done. Mike McDaniel's an interesting guy just because I think people look at him as a creative mind offensively. I think for some of these teams, maybe it would be a team like the Tennessee Titans. I don't know, in a rebuild. Maybe it's the Raiders who are going to take a quarterback number one that goes for a guy like Mike McDaniel. I don't know. It's got to be the right kind of quarterback. Brian Daboll, I know he's going to interview for the jobs. For head coaching jobs, I don't think I don't believe he's going to get a head coaching job. Not coming off what happened with the Giants. As I say to you all the time, he will get a coordinator job. He will do well as a coordinator. And then he goes from being a failed head coach to a head assistant coach or a coordinator with head coaching experience, and it becomes a positive. Who is going to go in that Steelers job to replace Tomlin? I mean, he got hired before the first iPhone was introduced. So, I mean, he's won a ton of games there. He is the Steelers. When you think about him, this version of them, he's the Steelers. And I think they need to go totally different for the next head coach. So it would be something if it was Brian Flores, because I believe Tomlin was a defensive, he might have been coordinator with the Vikings. And then he ended up going to Pittsburgh as a young head coach. I mean, I think Tomlin's only, 53 years old? And then the Titans job is open. They've got a quarterback. They're building a new stadium. Like, there's a lot of things there that if you want to take over. I think of Tomlin as a guy who could build a program. Depends on how much he really values the idea that he's never had a losing season, right? Because if you go to Tennessee, you're going to probably lose. If you go to Atlanta, that's a bad division, maybe. If he goes places without a quarterback and have to build it up, I don't know. Maybe he waits the year and does TV. Whatever he's done, good for him. He's out there. And then, like you said, Harbaugh is interviewing for everybody. I heard an NFL Network report that said the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Titans all have the inside track on John Harbaugh. Now, I know NFL Network puts out a lot of, NFL positive things. How can 3 teams all have the inside track? One of them has the inside track, not 3 of them. That's absurd. Like, no, if there was 30 teams going after Harbaugh and you said 3 of them had the inside track, I guess. But no. So I don't know where he's going to go. Maybe the Giants. Who knows? Maybe Tomlin will go to the Giants. Depends on what he thinks of Jackson Dart, right? I don't know. So we'll see how it plays out. But sometimes I see some of the stuff. Like, I think Mike McDaniel is the one guy who could get a head coaching job. Oh, well, Harbaugh will. And if Tomlin wants it, I think Mike McDaniel is the one guy that just got fired that could get one of these jobs. Atlanta. I mean, seriously, there's there's some bad jobs. Stefanski too. I mentioned him just a second ago. Depends on how it plays out. I could also see him being a guy who goes to a team for a year and right away gets a head coaching job. I could see him with the Eagles because they need an established play caller. They obviously fired their guy there. And I could see it. They've gotten used to that. They've had twice where they've had coordinators got head coaching jobs after being on the Super Bowl teams with the Eagles. This team didn't win one. Actually, it's 3 times because, Frank Reich and Steichen, and then went to the Saints after the Eagles won. So this is great podcasting here. Former boys, Kellen Moore. What is wrong with me? Anyhow, it's probably because half my mind is already in Denver. We had to book the flights. We had to get everything going. If you're going out there, let us know. We'll be out there, like I said, doing stuff live. But this is quick turnarounds. I covered the 92 season, when they won in Miami to go to the Super Bowl, after they had won in Pittsburgh, after they had won the miracle comeback game. So that was wild. And didn't think at the time that I wouldn't see another road playoff win until 2026, but that's the way it worked out. So maybe they can make it 2 in a row. I haven't made a pick yet, but I could just tell you guys this. I like them against Denver. I know they're beaten up. I know there's a lot of problems. I know Denver's got a lot of advantages. They don't have Josh Allen. That's what I'm going to, not that that's some big saying, big, it's like last thing, the national guys, Cowherd and Rich Eisen and all these guys are like Rex Ryan. I think Josh Allen. Let me tell you this, guys. Josh Allen's the best player in the NFL. Duh. Like, right? I mean, even when Mahomes was winning as an individual player, Josh was a better overall football player. He wasn't winning like Mahomes, but as a singular talent, as great as Mahomes is, I think Josh was a better overall talent. But certainly the last couple of years, I mean, he won the MVP, could have won it the year before. Look at all he's done this year. But they're acting like they just discovered him at Wyoming. We've all seen him. We know how great he is. And he's feeling great. Heading out there. Like I said, medicine and adrenaline. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the League Podcast, brought to you by Stellar Roofing, Windows, and Siding. Yeah, again, long weeks. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. From here in the Connors and Ferris podcast studio, Dan will have best bets. Jenna will be with me, and Dan will be out in Denver. Make sure you watch all the content, and we will see you the next time on Buffalo Plus.